All right. Well, I'll start.
Go for it.
All right. All right. Nick, welcome back for another episode of the Nick and Justin show.
Yes, yes, yes. Episode 11. Uno,
Count
uno.
them up. Count them up. Let's go.
All right. You want to dive into your topics? I honestly, I got one really good topic that I want to dive into, but it might only be good because I have a personal attachment to it.
Okay. What's yours?
I just want to talk
I
about.
opened up.
Yeah, I just want to talk about threads. That's about it.
That's all you got?
That it's not just all I got, but yes, it's all I got. What are your topics?
All right. When is it time to move away from your job?
Okay, and then the other one.
How do you stay true to yourself? All right. I kind of hear the thread one because I saw that. I got super confused and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, okay, fine.
Like, what is threads? And I saw it's like Twitter. And I was like, oh, it's just Instagram doing, or Facebook Meta doing Meta shit.
High level, basically, Mark Zuckerberg launched Threads and within 24 hours has gotten over 30 million signups.
Damn.
Yeah, so let me put this into perspective for you real quick of what that actually means. So in order for, there was this one post that a Instagram channel called Earn Your Leisure posted about how long it took for different platforms to get the first 10 million users. So Threads, it took them 7 hours. Google Plus took 16 days. ChatGPT took 40 days. Clubhouse took 347 days. Then it also includes things like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. But basically the rest of them, they took a long time. So in the speed at which people signed up for this was pretty quick.
Fuck. So why are you so giddy about this? Like, why is this a personal attachment for you?
Well, it's a personal attachment because the last time we saw something like this was Clubhouse.
Oh, scars.
Baby scars. And so
scars. Don't, it's okay. It's okay. You give a hug.
I mean, it was only like 2 years of my life.
Like 1.5. Okay, continue.
High level, what it is, it's Twitter. And there's a really good comparison that I saw posted on Instagram about how this really compares. The first thing everyone comes out is this going to kill Twitter or not? And it's always back to the zero-sum game, right? And a lot of the times that's not the case when it comes to anything. There could be two players in any market. You have Lyft and Uber. You have DoorDash and Grubhub. You have Microsoft and Apple, right? There's all these different players. So the post had this picture comparing Twitter is Uber, Lyft is Threads. My first question:
Twitter's more elegant. At first, Uber was the elegant one type of thing. That's the comparison.
I mean, have you been on Twitter?
No, you're the Twitter person in this.
Yeah, it's just tech bros. That's all it is. So there's a reason why a lot of people don't want to go into that because all they talk about is that.
No, what are you talking about? It's great stuff, you know? Dogecoin all day, every day.
But where's everybody else go? Where does everybody else go?
I don't know. Twitter.
I think it could be Threads.
Twitter's a weird place. I'm scared to use.
So have you downloaded it yet?
Threads? No.
Why not?
Since I don't use Twitter and it's similar to Twitter, why do I need to use Threads as I don't really use it?
Aren't you even curious with everyone reposting that they've made one?
No, I'm not. I was curious of the app itself, but not curious on, let me like dive into it.
I started diving into it mostly because this morning all of my newsletter digests were highlighting how fast it's grown. And the curiosity to me was, okay, I need to check this out. And because I don't have any of these apps on my phone and I don't remember any of my passwords unless it's through one of those password managers, I re-downloaded Twitter. I re-downloaded Instagram. But because I log into my Instagram through Facebook, I had to re-download Facebook to then log into my Instagram because you need the Instagram login to get into Threads. And by the time that I got to the point of where I was about to create and connect the Thread account is when I then read that there's issues deleting your account on Threads. So if you create a Threads account and you connect your Instagram to it, the only way to get rid of your Threads account is to delete your Instagram account.
Oh, snap.
So that was a hard press stop for me because
you didn't, I don't, yeah.
It's 10 plus years on an Instagram account. I can't just delete it.
Why not? Sometimes it's just letting it burn is probably the most freeing thing, you know?
Delete your page and then we can talk. Tell me how free you feel.
Hey, get your finger off the delete button off my page, okay, please? That is not welcomed. Please don't even put that in the universe. How dare you?
So high level, you have no interest in threads.
No. But speaking about social media, but I had this weird urge of actually not really caring about social media, but caring about publishing my timeline of life for my personal use. Go back to my photos and like archive everything, restart, put like my first European trip or like even like fraternity pictures, college, and just slowly just rebuild my own personal gallery for myself because I look back and I'm like, dude, I can't even go on my phone app and find the pictures that I want or my highlight reel of that event. I'm like, fuck. So yeah, that's a weird little tangent. I'm not sure that sparked anything, but that was just you saying about Instagram kind of reminded me that's like a summer project I wanted to get done.
I know some people use Be Real in that way. One of the features of Be Real allows you to go back and see what you posted on that day to then know what you were doing that day. You lose a little bit of specifically what you were doing if the notification comes and you just happen to be in your bedroom and you weren't out
and you're not doing
something yet. There was
that's just a weird one, dude. That was it's hard to win in social media. So that fell off too. It was like, oh, Be Real, and then 2 months later it was done. No one would say it. They would get a notification, turn it off, and just go back to the daily life.
Makes me curious. Be Real user graph. I think the hype of talking about it has definitely chilled. Taking a look of their MAUs. Okay, they're cooling off a little bit, but they're still doing pretty good. I'm looking at the business of apps.
Good? What's pretty good?
Millions. I think this is millions. So August 2022, they had 73 million monthly active users, which was their peak. February 2023, 47 million. So there was a drop off of around 30 million people. March 2023, 33 million. So they are a little bit on their decline.
Yeah, I don't know. With all these new social media ones, longevity just didn't seem real. What was
if they have enough funding, they have $30 million in funding in 2021 and another 60 in 2022. They keep their burn rate down. They can keep building that app with a decent user base for a while. What I'm thinking of really is we all thought Snap died.
Oh yeah, but
then they went public.
Repivoted. So I haven't dug into it, but they repivoted somewhere and new. What was their niche?
I have no idea.
Keep them alive because people still use like, hey, what's your Snap? I'm like, what?
That's a thing? Absolutely. People still use the app. I have no idea what their feature set is anymore, but they're doing okay.
They're doing okay. It's better than most. I think it's still doing better than Twitter at the moment.
I think Threads actually has a good shot of doing something.
In what way?
It's a simplified app similar to Twitter. A lot of people don't go onto Twitter because the community isn't there. It's a
water cooler station, pretty much.
So if there's a water cooler for people that don't want to go to Twitter, they might want to go to Threads. They can coexist where they wouldn't have overlapped anyways in that short form medium anyways.
Yeah.
And it brings a very different dynamic to Instagram itself because it's still under the Instagram hood, not directly underneath
the meta hood.
The meta hood. And so Instagram now they were photography first, then they moved to video. This is like their text layer that they can add to that larger portfolio because that platform didn't really have a very text heavy area.
Do you think it can evolve into another Discord? Would that be a possibility? Thinking out of the box, infrastructure wise. I know you didn't go in on it, but if it kind of is, will that open the door of building on top of Threads?
Maybe. I think that could be the natural progression is to
you already have the infrastructure from Facebook with groups. You already can create the small little communities. You have the text base with Instagram or with Threads, I mean. So
So they have the backend infrastructure to share messaging. Remember when they rolled up Messenger and Instagram and everything together on the back end? Logins, all the same logins, content sharing. You can be on one app and receive the content on another app. So the ecosystem is separated on the front end because they're each individual apps, but the back end all connects.
Yeah, it's possibilities. Well, what I love, okay, not love about Instagram, but the convenience of Instagram in itself was I don't have to use Snapchat. It just they're really good at consolidating their users instead of, oh, we're going to use two separate apps for the two different functions, like functions. Even for Reels versus TikToks are still, the algorithms better user friendly, I think it is, but it's just convenient for me to use one app on Instagram versus use two.
Or you could have one or the other and still be able to engage with the content.
Yeah.
So one thing that impressed me a lot, I just sent you a post that Mark Zuckerberg had shared.
I use .net. Whoa.
Maybe that's alluding to like threads.network. I don't know. So here's some things that I really, really like about their web-based aspect of everything. So to engage with Threads itself, you have to download the app. So it's kind of gated behind the application download, but the content is shareable to those that don't have the app, right? Like we could view the entire conversation, everything that's going on without that app being forced upon us to download.
It's like partying in a glass house.
Yeah, we get to lurk.
Yeah, we get to lurk, but to be inside the house and having a grand old time, you get to be in it.
And there's like small things on this page. So like right below his comment, get the app to like, reply, and post. So there's the call to action to download. There's the QR code on the bottom right-hand corner of it. Also another call to action to download. So there's entry points to download the app. This is one area that we lagged at Clubhouse, was the web experience to help individuals stay connected when you don't have the app.
Yeah.
Very similar to Reddit. You don't have an account, but you can still lurk on all the threads. The key piece is the ability to lurk. People love to lurk. Engagement, I think, is a different behavior to the point of where you're like liking, commenting, or participating, whether that's written word or verbally engaging in a conversation. Most of the time, I never go on stage inside of a Twitter space, but I'll lurk if there's something kind of interesting going on. This total tangent. Have you been tracking Airbnb and how they're trying to go back to their roots?
No, I have. I stopped using Airbnb for a little bit because at a certain point, hotels were cheaper than Airbnbs.
Absolutely. The fees afterwards are just going insane. And I haven't been on the platform for a couple months because I got banned. That's a different story. But the one thing that there's
unbanned though, that's good.
I got unbanned, but then I got rebanned. Yeah, a couple of months ago I got rebanned and they denied my appeal this time. Yeah.
You did not tell me that.
The days of me being on Airbnb are over. I'm gonna have to go to VRBO at this point.
You didn't even. What are you trying? Was that when you were going traveling around the world?
No, dude. Literally, I just got an email randomly saying your account's been suspended.
And they did not. Oh, those sons of.
But back to the core company of Airbnb.
Okay, sorry.
The founder started to become a host, and he's starting to see the problems, and so they're on this like very focused path of trying to make Airbnb back to what it is, where it's like the host experience, the host and guest interaction experience that made Airbnb special. The way that Threads got rolled out, yes, it's kind of like Twitter. But when Twitter came out, it was everyone saying that it was the original Facebook before Facebook got bloated. Remember when it was just a status? When you would be like, Justin is eating a sandwich? Remember that top bar? That's all it was. And then
you just go through what they're doing at the time, and then holy crap.
And so they're saying it's copying Twitter, but Twitter copied Facebook when it was just the wall in the posts on the wall. So in a way, it's almost like Facebook is truly returning back to their roots, even though it took a really, really long detour path to get there.
Well, are we going to the point where old is cool again?
Dude, Polaroids, vinyls, and records.
Film, dude. One, I'm so mad that everyone's hopping back on film. Everything's expensive to get a film camera. I used to buy those for a dime a dozen. Now it's 300, $400 for a busted one. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
A lot of the photographers on YouTube are making a push. Remember how you were talking about trying to find and curate photos?
Mm-hmm.
There's a subset of YouTubers that are talking about going back to Polaroids and everything like that. So you're taking that one picture that remembers the moment rather than taking the 65 different digital photos and finding the best one to post. That
Correct.
the value of that's gone, right? Or it's a lot less than what it was.
Yeah.
And that one picture that you take, even if it's imperfect, is perfectly imperfect.
Maybe that's what B-roll is trying to be at a certain point.
The digital Polaroid.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing right now? Snap it. Just capture it.
Millennials are the only generation that makes those like it has to have the perfect picture. If you look at Gen Z and Instagram and things like that, their first picture looks like it was an accident taken in their pocket.
The blurriness, the imperfections, yeah.
Yeah, colors all messed up, everything.
But it makes it kind of tight.
Like you said, everything retro is cool. Fashion is just a giant circle.
I might have to leave off to a tangent then if I'm gonna jump off. Like a question that has popped out in my head.
Go.
Speaking of all these new social medias, with if we can continue or not, but Airbnb, Tinder, Bumble, these social media apps, or I'm gonna consider them social media or service, trying to fix a problem but created a problem within itself, making it harder. Now, if you think about it, let's just break down Airbnb real quick. People are just buying houses to run Airbnbs instead of the general principle of saying, I have extra space, let's rent it out. Or I want to find someone to date. Now you have so many hard layers and super subjective type of measurements. Oh, height, done. I'm not even considering this person. Or look, done. Not even job, done. I'm not, swipe right. And now it's making it harder, both sides, to be insecure on dating. So it's actually harder to date versus to actually now making it easier to date. That was my weird thought. That was a weird, when you talked about Airbnb, closing the thread book. If you want to open this topic, we can.
Oh, totally. We could dive into it. I think every solution creates an inherent problem. It's been like that since ever.
What in a point besides those three apps has done that? You think
the gun was created to be a more efficient hunting tool, which then led to higher violence, potentially, as a tool, right?
Them really want the gun violence.
We went from Airbnb arbitrage to
you really use that example.
It's an option. No, it's how you use the tool at the end of the day. In the same way that it's how you use Airbnb. You can use it to make a little bit of extra money, or you can abuse it by doing Airbnb arbitrage because you see that there could be a financial capital gain on it, and then you exploit it. Same thing with Benadryl or Sudafed.
What do you do in Benadryl?
Okay. Have you been to a CVS or a Rite Aid or a Bartell's or anything like that and trying to get Sudafed? It's all locked up because people abuse the drug, even though it's supposed to be an allergy repellent or suppressant.
It's a nasal decongestant.
Yeah, but people abuse it. Or when I was at the dentist the other day, do you remember Listerine strips?
Yeah.
Okay, so Listerine, the mouth cleansing piece, there was always this burn that you would get in your mouth that made it feel like it was working.
Yeah.
And the reason for that was because they had alcohol in it. People were abusing that for other reasons besides cleaning your mouth, which is also why today's mouthwash doesn't have that burn like it used to, is because that's a chemical piece that got taken out.
I miss that burn.
So
my teeth are not clean anymore.
One solution creates another problem. I think there's every piece that I think everything has created another problem from a solution that it was, initially created for. Can you even think of any solution that has not created a potential problem?
We talk about electric vehicles. So great.
Yeah, and how it actually creates a larger carbon footprint to produce the vehicles.
The irony of it, because you really think about its core, you have to get electricity to pump in these cars. Where the freak are we going to get energy to pump electricity into these cars?
Oh, I'm not even talking about like the charging of it. I'm talking about the actual production of the vehicles creates a larger carbon footprint
Can you break that down?
Oh my
Because
gosh,
I actually
I would
don't.
have to find the articles and stuff for that. But there's a couple of articles and videos out there that talk about the actual components that it takes to build an electric vehicle versus the components to build a gas combustion engine car, and the amount of carbon that's created as a byproduct of manufacturing the vehicles is substantially higher with an electric vehicle than a gas powered vehicle. And so now you have the vehicles where like they're, let's say, offset like this. So starting from that point, yes, the slope of carbon created for using the vehicle is steeper than it is for an electric car. The electric car needs to be driven. There's a break even point of how many thousands of miles that need to actually be done before that actually breaks even. And thinking about how fast and how long the average person actually has a vehicle, average ownership of a car.
I want to say 10 years, but I feel like that's not right. For me, it's 10. 10 my little egg, my Nissan Versa is going strong. '07, baby.
The average ownership of a car is 8 years in America.
Okay, sounds about right. So I agree with that.
So the outstanding question is, what is the break even time that it takes before the extra carbon amount to create the EV is compared to the amount of a gas combustion car? And if it's greater than 8 years, then the average time to break even for the environment is beyond the average time someone actually has the vehicle, which just based on averages means that you're actually harming the environment by buying an EV.
This conversation got a weird twist and turn to it. Pun intended.
Yeah. I could look that up and we can like put that down in the show notes of exactly what it is. But
Yeah, just do it. Let's dig it up.
yeah, I'll find that piece.
Sick. Okay. Speaking, let's just turn away from stuff. Let's talk about some humanistic topics here. I'll tie it
Yes.
in, but let me pull it up. All right. Tying everything else on reverting back and how in Airbnb and maybe even Threads is going back to their roots of Facebook and Airbnb saying, okay, let's actually find homeowners to rent out versus people that buy houses to how do you stay true to yourself? That was my question. What sparked it? Well, I was listening to a Terry Crews and Mike Tyson interview, and there was one quote that stood out when it says, if you're a friend to everyone, you're an enemy to yourself. I was like, wow.
That's deep.
Right? Right? And then a second layer to that. You go ahead. I'll just break that down. But there was a second layer of a quote that made me even think deeper.
I think it was in the 11th grade. I was going, like most people going through high school, I was going through an identity crisis. I wrote this
An identity
paper.
crisis?
Yeah. I wrote this paper. No, the assignment was to write a paper about someone else. I think it was in the class. And I wrote about this one person in the class that like always seemed to be doing the coolest shit. Wakeboarding, skiing. Like I was like, his life seems so cool. There was this one person that wrote one about me. And so like everyone in the class reads it in front of everybody else, but you don't say the person's name. And as she was reading it, I remember listening to it and I'm like, this is about me. It was to the point that after she read it, I went outside the classroom and started crying. And what she was talking about was this person that wakes up every morning, looks at himself in the mirror and selects which mask he wants to wear that day, and how he goes throughout every day, every week, just changing throughout the masks, but never leaves the house without one. Just to provide some context, my life back then, I was like an athletic jock, right? I played sports, whether it was wrestling, volleyball, football, soccer, whatever. I was smart, so I was in all the accelerated classes. So I was doing all that stuff. I was in DECA, which was like a business fraternity. So there was a lot of different faces going on. And I would feel like I had to blend in all the time, but it was hard to know exactly who I was rather than those identities. Years later, I remember, obviously it still sticks with me. And I have reached out to her and to ask her if she actually has that paper, but she remembers writing it, and I remember that it was read, but she never was able to recover that essay. I've used that a lot as a reminder of trying to find the balance of when I'm in a mode of putting on masks versus walking out without one. And I think there's go ahead.
No, that was I had a very similar high school experience. Not in reading it, but it was living it. I kind of lost myself. So you can finish yours, I'll go on mine, and that's how I led to the fraternity and DSP.
Just closing my story, that's the anchor point that I've always had in my head. And there's times that I still get lost. It's not something that has kind of been one and done.
Yeah, I don't know. We came back we both came from the East Bay, and in that environment, you just had to put your different hats on, and then it just became your identity to have different types of identities. It
Do you
was
think it's
weird.
done through survival?
It can be because you're just trying to disguise yourself so you don't get detected, in a sense, to be ousted. How I was thinking about also thinking about it, if you're always different, you kind of get keyed in on. Like, we really want to go into like Salem witch trials, or when we're during the Cold War, you just, if you were different in some shape or form, like you just had to assimilate to an extent within with the you had to assimilate with the majority before getting called out for being different.
It's because a lot of the times you're safer with the pack.
Correct. It's easier just to go with the pack.
Well, reflecting on your story, how did you how do you stay true to yourself?
Oh, it was I had homies in high. I never had a lot of friends growing up. And if it was a neighborhood, if they were in different grades, it was like I was solo in my own age. And I went to a different school, so anyone in the same age, they went to public. I went to a Catholic private school.
I didn't know you went to a private Catholic school.
Yeah, I went to a private Catholic school until like fifth grade. But when I went to middle school, I didn't have friends. I didn't know I was socially awkward. I didn't know how to make new friends. And by the eighth grade, so I'm gonna go a tangent. Until eighth grade, so I was like floating around. I was just the person that's I was the lurker of a friend, just would hang out with a group that would accept me to an extent and just let me hang out for a small bit, but I never knew how to dig deep to create a friendship until eighth grade. Met homies that were in the positive light with really good grades. They played basketball. They were just really close knit. And I was like, yeah, this is dope. And they welcomed me into their friend group. And when I got into high school, I joined football. All was working with them all the time. And I just kind of drank the Kool-Aid of Mr. Cool Guy trying to be cool. And at a certain point, until fast forwarding to my senior year, I'm gonna cut her name out, but I overheard her saying something to my middle school friends, was that, yeah, they talk shit about him all the time. So I felt bad for Justin. So a mutual friend said something to my middle school friends who told me about all this, and they just said, Dad, they just shit talk you all the time. And I'm like, damn, I'm out here trying to fit in with this group that didn't even want me from jump, but I diverted away from my true homies who was there for me. But why? Why the hell did I do that? And as soon as our connection weren't strong, as soon as college hit, we drifted, which sucked. And when I went to college, I was like, I just got to be unapologetically myself. And if people are gonna stick with it like glue, then they're gonna stick with it like glue. If not, fuck them all. So yeah.
Do you have any close connections from high school still?
No, I used to have one, but that even after last year kind of fell off. So yeah, none. The only people I have right now is college friends.
I wonder what the split is of individuals that could keep in touch with high school friends, what the drivers of that was versus college friends versus no friends.
Oh, my brother's friend group, they've been together since freshman year of high school.
Do you think that they
They've
were always
been,
true to themselves rather than trying to be a chameleon amongst groups?
yeah, they were the goofiest people for themselves and were always there, regardless.
So they had 4 solid years to actually build a relationship rather than kind of floating in and out between 1 year here, 1 year there,
Between
1 year
groups
there.
and yeah, no. They would go dig deep, they would talk about deep shit, they would share life experiences. There was when they went to college, others are people doing different things. They came back every time they came when college break happened. So yeah, it was something I envied when I was in high school because I thought I'll get it. And I was trying to sought for it. But nah, I got that in college. It was hard, dude. It was mentally hard. That's when I had like really low self-esteem. So being like true to myself and staying true, like being is the person you are and someone will find value for who you are was something that I got from that lesson.
It's hard to do because it requires you to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what the past experience is, the last thing you want to do is be vulnerable.
Vulnerable. It's funny. I use that type of thing when I started dating, like in 2021 when I heavily started dating.
Mm-hmm.
Was that same type of approach, not trying to be like, oh, I'm trying to be this really, really nice guy or really trying to just perception of things. I'm gonna be unapologetically myself, and if it sticks, it sticks, and it doesn't, it doesn't. And I know who I can actually gravitate towards. So yeah, and I used that, and it lasted one date, lasted two, and it fell off. And next thing I know, I found someone that gravitated towards me, and I gravitated towards her. And 2 years in, man. So it was that was a philosophy that I kind of not forgotten, but didn't apply. Not something I've forgotten, but did not apply into another aspect of my life until that time.
I think when it comes to dating, maybe similar to friends, is if you're kind of focused on doing you, which is being your truest self, friends or significant others, they'll fall into place along that aspect of things rather than trying to turn the ship to meet the expectations of that friend or of that relationship, which then, I mean, we've seen that. We definitely can name a number of our own friends where when they're single, totally different person than when they're with somebody else. And then when they're with that other person, they're not who we know who they are. Or even worse, there's definitely been times where I've hung out with some friends, I've said some stuff, and they immediately shut me down. That person does not know that side of their life. And I'm like, bruh,
Why
like
not?
that is you.
Why not? Like, why?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so I know we talked about that first layer. So the second layer that got me going was this. It was talking about it said the perception of said as a man. So I was gonna say as the quote is, it could be a person or anybody else, but be a good man, not a nice guy.
That was like the second part of the quote that from that interview.
No, different quote from a different interview, and that kind of struck the same chord of thinking about that. So what does that mean too? Was be a good guy but not a nice guy.
Sometimes being good doesn't require you to be nice.
Yeah, and that kind of settled into the unapologetic, like fuck all. If you're not with me, then I don't want you in here. I'm not being nice about it.
There was something my dad used to say that kind of was a reflection point of being a parent. You can only do what you believe is the right thing. Whether it's right, wrong, perfect, or ideal is a totally different thing. As long as you truly believe you're doing what you should be doing, that's all you could ever expect from someone.
Shit, man, those two quotes got me bugging. So just wanted to share.
Well, for the record, you're not a nice guy, so
No, I'm an asshole, dude. I don't know what my girlfriend sees in me sometimes, man. I'm just the blunt person that makes me an asshole.
it's because you're a good guy.
Hey, man, I care very deeply,
I didn't say you didn't.
but I just say some blunt things.
And that's the overlap of where you're not necessarily having to be nice. You're just trying
Yeah.
to be good by being honest.
Ah,
It's deep.
yeah. I have one more if you want to dig in. We've only been like for 45, so
Yeah, let's go. What's the next one?
go into it. When is it time to move away from your job? So what sparked this quote was when I was on Google when they opened the new tabs and they had the news sources. So I scroll through sometimes. Okay. Reading this article when they're interviewing Arnold Schwarzenegger, the big freaking Terminator dude.
Yes.
I butchered your name. I'm so sorry. In the article, the quote was, I'm going to sum it up because it's a little bit long. If not willing to put in the work and time while for this startup job and side hustle that you want to leave your original job for, then you're not ready to leave your job because you're just running away from your job. You're not willing to put in the extra hours to work. You're just fantasizing about the idea of not working.
Is that your quote or is that a quote from Arnold?
I wrote a little synopsis with it. I can't read the. It was too clunky. It was too long. So it was pretty much paraphrasing.
So it's how do you know when to leave a job to do your own thing? Wow. When you first asked this question at the beginning, I was thinking, how do you know when it's time to move to a new job?
Oh no, I've been ambiguous. I'm like that.
You want to dive into the part about starting your own thing?
Yeah, let's do it. You want me to do it? Or you want to do? You want to just dig into it?
You first, so I could think about it a little bit more.
I resonated with this quote only because of what we're doing, talking about it, and then I'm adding more layers to it. A secondary podcast, trying to build a sports medicine type of course or another type of product in sports medicine field. So three things juggling with a job. I don't want to leave my job. I do want to put the extra hours in. But I was talking with a friend, and there was a weird point of the conversation where we're talking about me leaving athletic training. And at a certain point, I said, yeah, I feel very ready to leave if this podcast, a secondary podcast, or another project I'm working on as of right now takes off. Whenever reason takes off, I feel very ready to leave my job. And he asked me, why is that different than why you left it the first time around in 2020? I think I was being more resentful at the job versus feeling more fulfilled with my job status right now. In my career point right now, I feel very fulfilled versus being resentful. And I'm going to tie in that other quote with that when I paraphrase with Arnold, that I was that kind of loop that I wanted to give up everything to start this job, not because I generally wanted to put in the hours, but I just wanted an excuse to leave because I don't want to deal with it anymore.
Like you said, running away from a pain versus running towards a pleasure.
Yeah. But as of right now, working three different type of possible things I might set off. If not, it might be duds, but I have no reservation about leaving my job. What had made that difference? And that was a crazy type of thought when I was talking with my friend and this quote popped up.
Because I'm currently unemployed, I think I have to evaluate it a little bit differently.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, what you got?
It reminds me a little bit of that rant that I had about celebrating a layoff versus being sad about a layoff. The job that I had before was very similar to you. I was fulfilled. It was extremely time consuming and it prevented me from pursuing additional projects with the time and attention that I would want to put towards them. But I was okay with them going a little bit slower because the primary thing that I was working on was fulfilling. Being laid off was a decision made for me to kind of lean further into it. And
I
so
like how you said for me though. I like that.
it happened for me, right? Not to me. And now I have that time and energy to put towards it, which is also why I'm not actively applying to jobs as frantically as I probably would if the goal was to get another job. The goal now is to stand up one of these projects that could be sustaining enough to live. I remember the one time I started the clean room cleaning company. The goal wasn't to become a millionaire. The goal initially was just to make enough money to pay for bills. Because if you can pay whatever the expense or bill is with that side hustle, I mean, sure, you can't go out and get a steak dinner all the time, but you're free. You financially
there's
don't
so many
need
layers
the
to that
job.
free. There's so many layers of that too. So we just deep dive on, but yeah, it is true. If you could, that's how I felt about photography when I quit 2020. I was making enough to pay my bills, and I was like, oh snap. And then, but I did not feel fulfilled, and I went back. So
You definitely need to know what you're leaving for and if that's a means to an end or not.
mm-hmm.
Which sometimes it could be if it's part of the transition to doing something in, like doing something you love and getting paid while doing it kind of thing.
There was the reason why I did a little deep like dive on it because I remember the Great Resignation back in 2021 where like 32%. So I'm looking at it's a Forbes article. 32% of Americans are leaving their jobs to pursue their own ventures. And I found the HR Brew little article was that there was 5 million new business applications in 2020, which is up about 40% from like the following year, previous year. That I was like, but we only hear the good stories. So out of this 40% of either starting a new venture or 32% of Americans at that time of 2021, maybe one or a very small percentage of a handful would be doing well enough to do a yeah, I quit my job and I did really well story.
Social media makes starting a business seem significantly easier than what it is.
No, yeah. Fuck you, Threads. Just kidding.
It's something like 90% of all businesses fail at try.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that you need to know and get right. It can obviously be a little bit easier if you're doing it with a group of people because you can pull those experiences together. You fail 100% if you don't try, though.
Wow. Wayne Gretzky. Michael Scott.
Okay. Changing the pace just slightly. How do you know when to... I mean, let's say you don't want to become an entrepreneur and you just want to change your job. How do you know when it's time to change jobs?
As a whole or like financially? Like just a feeling or...
What was missing at that last job that made you want to change jobs? Like, how did you know that was the time? Like, what there was something that built the resentment.
Yeah. So the built resentment was in a high school level for me. It was not using my clinical skill sets at the full capacity. So for me, I think the resentment of not reaching my potential within the job itself. Like I'm reading for more. And maybe at the time I did not really analyze it myself. Maybe it was, oh, I just diverted to I need a new job. Maybe I don't like the job career itself. But when I went back into collegiate setting, I was utilizing my skill sets to the higher level. And I was like, this is what I wanted. Maybe it wasn't the fact of the job, but the job setting that did not make me feel fulfilled. So that's how I knew for me, now looking retrospectively, was that it was, am I reaching my capacity to where I feel like I want to be at or feel like I can be going towards? And if it's not, that was time for me to find a new job. And as of right now, I really feel fulfilled. I feel like I have a great career. It was a young career, but if something comes up and makes me feel like I need to walk away, I feel this time around I can easily just walk away and be like, I'm going on to a new chapter because of that fulfillment of I had a very successful kind of high school type of era. I had college right now has not won a ring yet, but so close last year. Fucking PKs.
It's okay. You guys have this year to redeem yourself.
This year. But I digress. So at collegiate wise, I competed and helped out a team to perform at a very high level. And I feel very proud of it. I'm doing really well as an administrator in a D1 setting. And there's nothing for me to say like, I need to, what else is more? And if I really wanted to deep dive in the career as a check mark, yes, going pro. But I don't really want that as my grand end life for me. So
I think it's also because you're not very complacent, that being in a situation where you feel underutilized can then become almost like a waste of time.
Yeah. And that's what I felt like. So job wise, that financially, if I say, hey, I'm going now, then find something financially. If it could pay my bills and I'm debt free from like my student loans and did all that and I could walk away, then yeah, I'd walk away and start this new chapter, not athletic training related in my life. That's how I would know probably another pathway of when I can leave my job.
I forgot which one of my managers told me this one time, but I remember asking, when is it time to leave? And they broke it down into two categories. They're like, any job that you have, you should either be learning or you should be earning. Ideally, you're doing both, but at minimum, you should be doing one. If your job is at a point where you're not learning something new and you're not earning what you believe that you should be making, it's probably time to find something else to do.
Damn, I like that one.
It was like simple enough to always remember and broad enough to basically encompass almost every scenario that I could think of throughout projects that I've done, different jobs that I've held. And it helps kind of pave the way of what projects I want to take on. Because I do think everyone does have a price, right? There's these jobs out there that pay an enormous amount of money where you're working 24/7. You're basically on call, but kind of it could be worth it in a way because you're like, yo, I'm getting that bread. Maybe you're learning something too. That's, little bloop. you could take that with you when you leave. But there's definitely jobs that I've had where I was like, I'm not doing anything, where I'm learning. I feel underpaid. Peace, I'm out. I have no idea what you're mouthing, but let's go with yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Yeah, well, this is pretty good though. I like it. This is a good little thing. Want to close out, or you want to?
no, I think that was perfect. You started it off, and I was going directly into job to job, but you were talking about job to doing your own thing, and so
I made it ambiguous to make it like,
no, it was great because it totally made me
Yeah.
think in another way that, like, I have a playbook when it comes to a job, but I don't have a mental playbook when it comes to projects.
Yeah. So I came with very intellectual type of thought processes to go around.
Absolutely. No, they're super thought provoking, and I greatly appreciate that. All right, let's tie this one up.
Tie it. Okay, tie it up, Nick. All right, we're all done.
Okay, so if you made it this far, thank you for joining us on episode 11. Also, leave a comment below on what your thoughts are when it comes to deciding when to leave a job, whether that's to do your own thing or find another job. Comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in episode 12.
Peace.